Yo, 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 what is up, guys? Jacobshadowminer here. So, Warner Brothers is being bought out, or is either going to split and possibly die. Let's talk about that. So I'm going to go ahead and start off. Usually we do our little banter, our little talk, our little small talk for these episodes. That's not... Well, I'm just going to be talking anyway. I mean, that's basically like the entire episode. It's like just banter and talking. Like just us talking about like what we think, what's going on, all that kind of stuff. But usually it's just like on topic, kind of. But more like, oh, well, I don't know. Minecraft just came out with like a, pickle rig update. And it's like, oh, well, that's cool, I guess. I don't know. But, yeah, it's been a while. It's been a while since I've done one of these episodes. And, wow. I'm going to go ahead and start by saying this has been an eventful year. And it has really, really, really been an eventful year. At the beginning, I didn't really get to do much with the whole move and all that kind of stuff. And I did have a plan, but, I mean, you can't really do much if you're moving. So it just more or less kind of got backlogged to the end of the year, basically. And let me tell you, these past like end of the year type things has been well, overwhelming to say the least. Well, I can't really say overwhelming, but it's been crazy busy. It started out with, like a lot of you guys know, like keeping up on my stuff and all that. It all started out with that book I wrote, A Crazy Life. One of the stories I've written and have revised and have been trying to perfect since like 2019 when I was in film school. And then the next thing happened, it's like, oh, well, that whole Sagamatic thing, my studio, I need to start focusing on that more. I had a roadmap this year. And even though that roadmap might have been a little bit bumpy, my roadmap was to get back into the grind of content, do right by my own channel, build consistency, build a consistent schedule, and I feel like I've done a good job of that. Out of all these things I'm literally getting ready to say, I have to say one of my biggest weaknesses has been consistency. And I have to say, one of my biggest hurdles has been, well, I can't say completely, but has been conquered. It's been, like, fixed. Like, I feel like I've been more consistent. Since like I used to make like stupid videos back in high school where I used to have like all my friends be like, hey, when's the next video? When's this next video? It's like, working on it. Hold on, you gotta hold on here. But this is what I feel. I feel like I've been really consistent. And and before I get into all the other talk and all that, usually for a lot of you guys just now hopping on or tuning in on Spotify, Twitch, YouTube, whatever. Usually we have Alex or Jame here, or we have like a few other random guests. But tonight it's just going to be a solo. Getting back into it, Alex and Jame, they're scheduled for a little bit busy, so it's just going to be a solo cast tonight. But hopefully now we're back on track with Voice Chat Vibez. Next week we'll see Alex, and then we'll see Jame. We get to get like freaking Jame's amazing analytical stuff on life, and Alex's amazing sports corner that honestly rivals whatever the heck ESPN puts out, in my opinion. But anyways, back to the stuff. So I feel accomplished, and we'll go, next thing that happened, we have my music, because like I said, Sagamatic, I worked on consistency, I worked on my YouTube stuff, now we get into the meat and potatoes of my projects, which is the greater picture of Saugamatic, which that alone can be a podcast episode someday, or a long ass YouTube video. But I did get Saugamatic. Like, I finally have figured out what Saugamatic is, and which I'll kind of explain here in a little bit. But start out with another music release. a lot of this year, don't get me wrong, a lot of this year has been amazing, but man, a lot of this year has been pre-production, writing, a lot of like stuff behind the scenes. It feels like busy work, but in the end, it all comes together. It's all worth it, and that's the theme for like Saugamatic. So next thing was music. I had my Haunted Autumns album that came out on Spotify. Then I had the accompanying video that usually goes out on the Voice Chat Vibe YouTube, because that alone, each piece, and this is going to make sense when I start explaining what Saugamatic is. This piece is another one of those bigger puzzle pieces to the bigger picture overall. So, Voice Chat Vibez, it's like that underground, kind of like Adult Swim like vibe thing, where you have like a video, like like what you've got on screen right now, just playing in the background, vibes up your space. That's why it's called Vibe Space. And so that one, I had to say, was a very big project. Because the pre-production for that was crazy. Like picking up the locations, it's like the setup and all that kind of stuff. But it's not crazy on the level of like pre-production for like Hollywood major films or anything like that, because there was no acting, there was no actors that need to be picked out. It was just simple backgrounds. It really was just going out and then getting B-roll. There's no A-roll needed. It's literally just all B-roll. If you like see what Vibe Space is, it's just a background thing and the music. So I got to record my thing for like Haunted Autumns, and Spotify. Spotify and Apple Music kind of dropped the ball a little bit on the release a little bit. Kind of delayed it, but you know what to tell. Late's better than never, I guess you could say. So Haunted Autumns came out, but while I was doing that, I was actually recording more for this holiday, because I had a no matter how my schedule went this year, I had a big Halloween planned and I had a big holiday planned, and part of that recording was literally going to like different locations, getting stuff for like the Voice Chat Vibez holiday stuff, and a lot of the behind, like for both of those in general, a lot about behind the scenes recording music, layering the music in Audition, mastering it, and all that kind of stuff. It's all busy work, but when it all comes together at the end of the day, it's worth it. That's how I see it. And so a lot of that going on this year. And on it, the Christmas thing is obviously the last major Saugamatic, Shadowminer, or whatever you want to call it, project. Everything else is just going to be like wrapping up, wrapped. I'm actually going to get into that here in a little bit. But a lot of this is just wrapping up, the end of the year. Like my thing I'm getting ready to show you at the end of this video, actually. Speaking of like recording holiday scenes and cool holiday stuff and all that. I'll save it for the end of the stream, because I want to be surprised. But a lot of this year it's just been busy work, and I feel relieved that the holiday recordings, holiday Yule log, holiday music, I feel like that's a good, especially the way the music came together. To me, that feels like a good sign off for the end of the year, in my opinion. And you have, like I said, you have everything that's getting ready to come out toward the end of the year is literally just going to be right. It's not going to be a major, crazy project. It's literally just going to be wrapping up stuff. And, like, what's getting ready to launch this Saturday, my merch shop. One of the biggest things I've always tried to figure out was merch. And I finally figured it out. So it's going to be dropping, actually at a perfect time. I chose specifically after Black Friday to launch it. I tried to keep the prices as reasonable as I could. I hope the prices are reasonable. I tried to lower it. I'm not really going to be making a profit off any of my merch at this point. I really don't need to. And it's one of those things, it's like, kind of tried to lower it as low as fourth wall would let me. And speaking of fourth wall, that's another thing. I've been working behind the scenes with them, and there's another thing or group of people I've been working behind the scenes with of building partnerships, building connections. That's another big part of this year, has been building partnerships and building connections. And that leads straight into Sagomatic. Sagomatic Shadowminer. That's the theme of this entire year. Busy work, Sagomatic, Shadowminer, projects, and connection building. Yes, I can say this till I'm blue in my face. Busy work. Busy work. A lot of busy work. But I say the end of this year was amazing, to say the least. A lot of my big starting projects, a lot of my groundwork for the things happening next year started at the end of this year. And it can be seen as laughable, oh well, I didn't really get that many YouTube videos out like I wanted to, didn't really get that many shorts out like I wanted to. But just sitting here looking at all the bigger projects, and then how all those bigger projects came together for the bigger picture, the overall Sagomatic, the overall my channel, whatever, I feel accomplished. And I could say this banter, this rant, whatever you want to call it, for my end of the year recap video. That like I said, a lot of the next few projects coming up is literally just going to be mine. I have a Spotify rap plan. I think it might be too late to record that, but at least for Spotify. But I just might put it out on TikTok or Shorts or something. And then I have my end of the year recap video. I'm going to be sitting down, and I'm going to be doing one for Sagomatic, and I'm going to be doing one for my YouTube channel. Kind of explain more in detail what I'm going to be doing next year, how this year turned out, kind of what I'm doing right now, and kind of just look back and appreciate. First and foremost, look back and appreciate what this year did for me. And then, okay, so this year is the roadmap. Now let's move on to next year with a bigger roadmap. And next year's bigger roadmap is going to be pretty big. And when I mean pretty big, I mean really pretty big. I'll kind of give you guys some teasers, what I'm going to be working on next year. I'm going to go more in detail in the end of the year video recap thing. But starting out next year is going to be a big year for my channel, as we have a solid ground to work with, more consistency. If I can maintain it while doing bigger projects on the side, which I've kind of learned I can do, it is possible. Just had to cut a lot of the fat out. Bigger projects next year, Sagomatic wise. A lot of you guys who don't know what I keep bringing this up all over and over and over. It's my production company. 4 big pillars, combining music, storytelling, gaming, films, and television all into one thing. Because one of those big things you always hear is there's no such thing as a good video game from a movie, and there's no such thing as a movie from a video game. Or, well, a good movie from a video game. So that's why I founded Sagomatic. Anyways, next year is going to be a big year for Sagomatic and my YouTube channel, because you can't have Sagomatic without my YouTube channel, and you can't have my YouTube channel without Sagomatic. Well, you can, but it defeats the whole point of Sagomatic in the first place, and my vision and all that. Next year is going to begin the pre-production for 2 big projects. 2 big projects at Sagomatic, and of course my channel, because my channel is also part of projects. And it's going to be a lot of film work. It's going to be a lot of location scouting again. It's going to be a lot of, but this time, a lot of trying to spot talents, but not that big of a deal, I don't think, because these 2 projects aren't really going to require all that much people. It's going to be a lot of paperwork. It's going to be a lot of quick releases, a lot of, even just getting equipment, like picking up equipment. And me, I'm a big practical effects kind of person. Finding the props, building the sets. It's gonna be a lot of stuff next year. But even though it's a lot of stuff, I learned that it is doable. I can maintain my YouTube channel at a very decent level while still having to maintain getting props, pre-production stuff, all that, and even production and posts. I can do that. It's something I can manage, because I'm a very quick-minded person. I'm very ADHD, very used to multitasking. So it's like not that big of a deal for me. So next year, that's the whole like teaser for next year. It's a lot. It's gonna be a lot, and not even just like project-wise, like business-wise. Since I moved over to Minnesota, I'm going to be moving Sagomatic LLC over to Minnesota, so I've had to get the whole process of dissolving, and then now remaking the LLC, which isn't that big of a deal. The process of planning out, because one of the things like I've done to keep myself more consistent is I either make a schedule for myself 3 weeks in advance, like your normal stupid job or whatever, or I make a schedule for myself a month in advance, sometimes even 2 months, based on like when events are happening, when yada 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 yada. And next year is going to be that. It's just going to be that. Like, one thing I've learned throughout this whole test of a year is how to do that. And next year is going to be a lot of sitting down. Well, actually, no, not next year. Actually, December, this year, towards the end of this year, like sitting down, okay. When do I want to do this project? When do I want to do this film project? When do I want to do the next film project? First project, I'll admit, is going to be the film adaptation of my book, 8 Crazy Lives. So if you haven't read the book yet, right now is a good chance to do that. But it's not that big of a deal, because like my film project is going to be a literal adaptation from that book. Still trying to work out the details, how I want to release it and all that, but the next project's actually going to be something that leads into the bigger Shadowminer universe, Sagomatic universe even. But like business-wise, I've got a lot of things tightened down, and next year's just going to be building on that. Like next year, even there's like local conventions here in Minnesota I'd like to go to, to get out like Sagomatic and all of Sagomatic's projects, and maybe do like a couple conventions, nothing crazy. Someday, so it's been my dream even, like once Sagomatic and once I get to like a bigger level, I'd like to host my own convention, call it SagaCon. But yeah, that one can dream, but yeah, this year has been a very, very big learning year, and it helped me build the foundation for next year, and then that foundation is going to build on top of it. And yes, next year is going to be a lot of work, but it's going to be a lot of busy work like this year was, but this year really helped me understand how to organize it all, how to execute it all, and, well, here we are. I'm doing my Voice Chat Vibe holiday thing. Got a Yule log out, got holiday music out, got all these different things out on time, and a lot of people enjoy them. And I'm glad that at the end of the day, that is one thing that makes me happy. As long as you guys enjoy what I'm making, that's why I make it. To help everyone escape their everyday realities. We all need that. But enough about all that. It's this year, and actually one of the big wrap ups is actually going to be at the end of the stream. So if you want to tune in that, make sure to stick around towards the end of the stream. But Warner Brothers. Enough of my big end of the year stuff. Next year stuff. I got a whole video about that. That's not what this whole podcast is about. Warner Brothers. The whole reason why we were here. Man, what a shit show. Literally. So, a lot of you guys know what Warner Brothers is. It's been through a troubled past. It's been bought, I can't even count however many times it's been bought out at this point. I think it's been at least bought 3, 4, I don't even want to know. You had, well, I think I'm going to do this starting out in a timeline order. Warner Brothers started out being, a film company, a theatrical release company. And then it started buying all these different things like Cartoon Network, Hanna-Barbera Studios, all these different things. Now it is in control of was in control of a lot of things. Mainly solely relying on theatrical releases and television to be its main business model. Which we all know, television has been dying. But I'm going to get into that here in a little bit, but it's been solely relying on now television, and commercials, and cable packages, and theaters, and all that kind of stuff. And, at first, Warner Brothers was kind of acquiring a little bit of debt, when it was just Time Warner. And AT&T was like, okay, let's try to get into the film industry, let's try to get into the movie industry, and we're going to save Warner Brothers. So they bought it, and, well, of course, didn't do much with it, really. The debt just kept piling up, to the point where Warner Brothers itself has, and still has, over $40 billion in debt. And then, after, say, a good few years, it was 7 years, 9 years, or whatever it was. AT&T's yeah, we can't do this anymore. We can't hold on to this much debt. It's starting to hurt our internet company. It's starting to hurt our cell phone business. And we no longer want to be a part of the cable company industry anymore. We no longer want to be a part of this anymore. That's another reason why AT&T spun off DirecTV, because they didn't really want to focus much on cable TV anymore. So they sold off Warner Brothers, and then Discovery was like, hey, we're gonna pick up Warner Brothers. And this is where everything, in my opinion, started going to literal shit. A lot of you guys know, a lot of my friends know, I'm a big Cartoon Network fan. Ever since I was a little kid, I've always woke up in the morning. It's always been a routine. I have a lot of big routines, but one of my big routines has been, waking up, watching Cartoon Network in the morning, watching my cartoons, the nostalgia, whatever. And, what used to be at like exactly at 12 a.m., Adult Swim would kick on. It's like, oh yeah, now it's the good stuff, It's like that perfect balance, and like now the schedule goes something like, oh well, Adult Swim starts at like 4 now, but then again, like Cartoon Network also starts at 4 now. So, well, I mean, at least CST wise. So it kind of is more of a half and half kind of thing now. Like now, like Adult Swim has more airtime. It's more balanced out with Cartoon Network, and it's kind of one of the bigger issues to a bigger problem that Cartoon Network's got going on right now. But this CEO who took over the reins for these two companies, when Discovery bought Warner Brothers, it decided to create Warner Brothers Discovery. And the CEO who took over, Mr. David Zaslav, I think I butchered his name, I don't know, I'm not really sure. I really don't care, honestly. Has to be the most consequential CEO to run an entertainment company, in my opinion, because the amount of damage he has done to Cartoon Network, Adult Swim, HBO Max, like animation, and not even just animation, but the bigger picture of Warner Brothers. The amount of layoffs, damage, the list goes on. This man has done to this company in favor of shareholders, in favor of profit, in favor of eliminating that debt, is just wow. It starts with this, right? I'll start with a story. When I was in 8th grade, I got the honor of going to the CNN headquarters, CNN Center down in Atlanta, and I got to actually tour the studio. And then when I was in 8th grade, they still had the Cartoon Network store open. It was like great. You went there, it was like visiting a mall, but if it was like kind of really successful, it didn't feel like you were showing up to a headquarters. It literally felt like you were like showing up to like a tourist attraction, like somewhat of a theme park, but not really. And we even got to see like it was so crazy because like back then even like CNN Student News, it like became CNN 10. You had like Carl Azus, the host. We actually got to see that guy doing production. Like we didn't get to meet him because he was like doing production, but we actually got to walk by the window. We were like, yeah, we got to meet that guy. It was so cool. That is one thing I'll never forget. And then like we all sat down and had lunch, and I had like a really amazing teacher that sat and we just talked about life for a while. And, that is one of my core memories. I have a lot of core memories, but one of my core memories I will never forget. And now fast forward to the day, today, Warner Brothers, and a lot of you guys won't even know this, and this is what surprised a lot of people. So it probably might even surprise you because you probably didn't even know. The CNN Center quietly got closed down. And I'm like, what? Because that's like one of the bigger like tourist attractions in Atlanta. And here it is. When I seen the news, I was like, wow. And I shared it, with my friends, and a lot of them were like, oh, well, dang, well, I didn't even know that happened. And I'm like, me neither. It just quietly happened. But it's like, well, how can one of the biggest tourist attractions in Atlanta just quietly get shut down? And it's like, it still amazes me. And that's because of the direction of this CEO, this Mr. David Zaslav, which actually leads to a bigger problem of him trying to consolidate a lot of these studios into one area, like this one big Warner Brothers area, like shutting down legacy studios and it's like taking bunch of peas. They have like their own cans, and then ripping those cans open and then trying to shove them in one big can. It could work, but it's not going to really work ultimately. And because you have like established cultures, you have established cultures that have been building over the past years, decades even, and then now you destroy those cultures, and now you're trying to cram them all together. I don't know. But then, because like I said, this led to a bigger problem. The bigger problem being, okay, this was actually televised. This was the public studio that, like, everybody's like, oh my gosh, Cartoon Network Studios, the studio in California, shut down and consolidated into Warner Brothers Animation. A lot of layoffs, and even led to a lot of people to believing, oh my gosh, the actual like TV channel is getting ready to shut down. Like it made people think, oh my gosh, this thing's literally going to die. I mean, it's not how it really turned out. Like, it didn't die in a sense. I mean, there's a lot of layoffs, but it didn't kill it. It just really hurt it badly. I mean, TV channel's still up. In my opinion, it's even like went back to its original classics. To a degree, it's doing too many reruns, but then again, you had some new stuff come out. You had like Rick and Morty season 8 on Adult Swim. You have like more Smiling Friends stuff. You have the reboot of like regular show, but that's only going to be on like I think Hulu or HBO Max or something. But it might show up on Cartoon Network. Who knows? But I don't know. I don't know, because after a lot of that disaster, Warner Brothers to today. We're going to get to now. Warner Brothers decided to split. They decided this merger was no good. This merger was a disaster, and they should have never done it in the first place. But there are options later that could be doom or gloom or not be doom or gloom. So they made this announcement like earlier in the year that they plan on. I'm gonna pull up my notes so I can kind of like go through with you guys. But they had this big picture, like this big thing that showed. It made me laugh my ass off. To maximize the value of both Discovery and Warner Brothers, and to hear me out, hear this part, to maximize shareholder value. I have a friend who, me and them were talking, like, it's a death nail. It's a nail in the coffin to, if a good private company ever goes public. Mainly because shareholders are literal dicks. They're literal crooks. Because they always have their own best interest at stake, always. And they're always making sure the company always has to see profits. It always has to show growth. Because the CEO they've implemented, the CEO they've put in, if he doesn't do that in, say, 2-3 years, he's out. Time to get somebody new, or even worse, we got to make a big decision to, make changes to this company, or do whatever, kind of like what's going on right now. So they came up with this big idea, right? Because remember, we're going back to that whole conversation. Warner Brothers had a lot of debt, and they have $40 billion worth of debt. And going back to that, this CEO has done everything in his power to find ways to literally cut that debt down himself. But I guess he didn't do enough. I don't know. But their ultimate solution, okay, so on face value, right? If you don't really know much about business, on face value, it looks like Warner Brothers and Discovery are splitting their ways, and they're doing this to go about their own way, because it looks like, oh, well, we didn't work well together. Time to split, but no, no, that's not the reality behind it. The reality behind it is it's at $40 billion of debt, right? The supposed split would supposedly split these two companies, and these two companies would no longer be like under the same umbrella. They will no longer be under the same control. They won't have the same CEO. They won't have the same CEOs anymore. They won't have the same board of crooks, right? The way it looks on paper. Well, no, not the way it looks on paper. What the hell am I saying? Literally what's happening is you'll have Discovery, which is going to be the global brand, they said. Like, that's going to be your linear TV. That's going to be your legacy TV company. And that's very important to note for later when we start seeing how much of a bigger issue this split's actually going to become, if it happens. So you'll have your classic cable company, linear TV, that's supposed to be the global company. Like your cable networks like CNN, Discovery, all that kind of stuff. And then you'll have Warner Brothers, the streaming, the media company. It's going to be your HBO Max. It's going to be your Cartoon Network Studios. It's going to be your William Street for Adult Swim. It's going to be like what you're good at. The one thing that's holding this company afloat is intellectual properties, and HBO Max, and that's it. There won't be no linear cable TV. There won't be no legacy TV brands, and that is where we get into a big issue. So one of the big issues, back to that whole how Discovery is going to be the global network. It's going to be your linear cable TV. It's going to be traditional cable, basically. Not only is it just CNN and Discovery, and then like your basic cable channels that's going to be going away with Discovery, it's also going to be the actual literal Cartoon Network, like Cartoon Network channel. It's going to be the Adult Swim block going away, splitting away from Warner Brothers entirely into Discovery. And then you're going to have the studios, right? Okay, so let me explain this. How Warner Brothers, or how Cartoon Network is split, it's kind of like Fox. So, a lot of people keep drawing similarities to Fox. You have the channel, which is ran entirely separately from Cartoon Network Studios. The channel is what broadcasts the intellectual properties of Warner Brothers, Cartoon Network Studios, etc. But they don't have to worry about licensing that stuff because they own the right to that stuff. So they don't have to worry about many issues. The only time they ever have to really worry about licensing it is things like Family Guy on Adult Swim, or Simpsons. I think at some point they did Simpsons, or Bob's Burgers. Anything that's like not their property, they have to worry about license. But it's not on the studios to do those kind of major decisions and contracts. It's on the legacy network operator, which would be stuff like all the linear, and there's several different. And that's literally why Discovery Global is going to be Discovery Global, because there's several different variants of Cartoon Network, whatever channel, Turner Broadcasting, whatever, any of the legacy channels. Several different variants of people that operate these channels. The channels are not the ones that produce the contents. They're just the ones that shows it. Just like a movie theater. Movie theaters, they're not the ones that produces Marvel films. They're not the one, obviously. They're not the ones that produces Marvel films. They're not the ones that produce DC films or whatever. They're just the ones that deliver it. And then they have their own, pre-roll advertisements, bumpers on like a network is literally just like the equivalent of like a movie theater advertisement, whatever, like pre-show kind of thing. And yeah, that was one thing like Cartoon Network and Adult Swim are both iconic on, or they're like iconic like bumpers and all that. So they're just channels. But they don't have to worry about licensing too much content, or well, really much at all, because they have their own in-house studio that produces content, so they don't have to worry about it. Or they didn't have to worry about it. Now you have, if this split happens, it's gonna be really interesting, because if the split goes through, and what I mean by if the split goes through, I'll get into that here in a little bit. If it goes through, you're gonna have a situation literally like what happened with Disney when they acquired 20th Century Studios, but because of regulatory issues, they had to split away Fox. But yet Fox still airs things like Simpsons and Family Guy, because they, it's like they had a handshake deal, because like you can't really think of Fox without Family Guy or like Bob's Burgers, whatever. So, but they license those shows. They don't own those shows anymore, if that makes it, because those shows are now owned by Disney. It's a headache. It's a big headache. Cartoon Network is going into that literal path. Cartoon Network will split, and this channel is going to have to license a lot of the stuff from Warner Brothers. They're going to have to license it from Cartoon Network Studios, because Cartoon Network Studios isn't going to be tied down to the channel anymore, because it, like, legally, whatever, it no longer has a right to give Cartoon Network those shows anymore, which is weird. It's just weird to me. It's weird, because they're going to be more focused on the streaming aspect. And this could become a bit of a problem, because here's where the business aspect of this whole deal comes in. So, well, the first aspect is maximize shareholder profits. I'm never going to not laugh my ass off at that. The second biggest issue, remember that debt we talked about earlier? Let's talk about that debt. So when these two companies split, these two companies are not going to be sharing the debt. Like I was talking about how many of my friends were talking about shareholders and crooks and all that. One of us cracked a joke about, this is literally a Viking funeral for all these legacy cable TV channels, because how Warner Brothers is going to do this deal, like if the split happens, is Discovery Global, they're calling it, the ones with all the channels, is literally going to be taking 100% of the $40 billion of debt on. So, not only do they have to find a way to dig themselves out, still, they have to find a way to have enough money for things like Cartoon Network and Adult Swim to license these shows from Warner Brothers. And that might actually lead, and a lot of people are worried because of this deal, to more reruns. Depending on who you ask, that might be a bad thing or a good thing. Or it might zombify the channel more. It will slowly kill the channel. Which, I mean, I know legacy cable. Like my personal opinion, I know legacy cable's dying, but I still see. I've always said, you'll never get like legacy cable TV. You're always going to need a sense, like you're always going to need it for sports. You're always going to need it for something, right? Like especially like end of the world scenarios. It's just cable TV needs to adapt. I think they've kind of started doing that, doing a better job. With YouTube TV, stuff like that, making it more online. But ultimately, like my personal opinion, I think if cable TV really wanted to make the leap, they would just literally make no more cable bundles. I think that's why people cut the cord in the first place. I think the ultimate evolution for cable TV would be like making it completely free, but doing like advertising, because advertising is the biggest profit maker these days. That again, that one, I don't know. But yeah, you have this potential split going through. And again, if this split happens, it's going to be the biggest joke on planet Earth. Because, like, Cartoon Network's going to have this big debt. They're going to this Viking funeral. They're literally being sent out to die. They're going to have to license their own content from Warner Brothers. It's going to be a joke. It's going to be a big mess. But, remember, like, throughout this whole conversation, I keep saying, well, that's if this happens. That's if this happens. And that's not because these shareholders have a change of heart and they're like, oh no, well maybe it'd be bad if we split things. No, that's not even it at all. Now we have 3 players in mix. That actually yesterday the bids were due in, so there's 3 players currently right now as we speak, as far as I know from what I can see online, bidding for Warner Brothers Discovery. And that is, well, we all know who they are. It's obvious. Netflix, Paramount, and Comcast. There's technically a 4th one, but I'll get to that one here in a little bit. Each one has their own vision for what they'll want to do with Warner Brothers. 2 of them are very dangerous, and 2 of them are very messed up, and would literally shell out the company as a whole. But one of them kind of makes sense. Kind of. And I hope that's the deal we end up with, because right now it's pick your poisons. They're poison. They're not bad poisons at all, really. It's just like there's something that's going to make you sick. But, right, like a little bit. But it's pick your poisons. 2 choices, really. And I'll get into that here in a little bit, but it's pick your poisons. 2 choices. Both those choices are going to save, like, Warner Brothers, possibly, for a longer term future, but it's going to have to take a bit of a hit. And the other choices are death. Literal death. So we'll start with what Netflix plans to do. Netflix came out and said, oh, well, we're going to continue to show all DC movies in theaters if we acquire you. Wink. Agatha wink, right? Because we all know that Netflix is a streaming service. They said they never believed in cable TV, obviously. And they certainly have made statements that they don't believe in theaters. So what's going to stop them from buying out Warner Brothers, right? And then just being like, oh yeah, we're no longer going to be showing these movies in theaters. You literally have to buy a Netflix subscription. And of course, obviously, it's not that. There's no secret they would obviously shut down the linear cable networks. I mean, it's no secret that would happen to them. I mean, you run an online streaming platform. Why would you want to focus on legacy cable TV networks? So if they got sold to Netflix, that would obviously be death. Shelled out. Like, rip. Then you have Paramount, which in my opinion is the bigger evil of, not as evil as like Netflix, but like the bigger evil of like Comcast versus Paramount. And it's the one that doesn't really make sense, because they pull it off and they do want to keep around the linear legacy cable networks. Now you have Nickelodeon, Cartoon Network under the same roof, and then it becomes a whole disaster. It would literally be like Disney acquiring Warner Brothers and then having Marvel and DC under the same roof. That would scream monopoly in so many ways. So Paramount's like a runner, but they're not like currently a runner-up. They were like a runner-up, but they're not really anymore. right now we have Comcast, which is at the forefront. So Comcast originally Paramount wanted to buy everything, and then eventually it would have just became an issue of like spinning things off, and that's what Comcast kind of wants to do too. They want to do that whole buy everything, but we're going to spin off the legacy cable networks, all that. So it would literally be the same fate as if Warner Brothers and Discovery split, but it would be a better way because now with Comcast owns NBC Universal, and well, we all know Universal Studios is one of the biggest rivals to Disneyland. And if Warner Brothers Discovery were to fall into the hands of Comcast, it would just make sense. Because if you think about it, Warner Brothers already hosts Harry Potter Land at Universal. So just now having full control would make things a lot easier for that. You would have a lot more parks for things like Cartoon Network, DC stuff, right? And it just makes sense. That's the deal that makes sense. But you still have that issue where it's like the legacy cable, your Cartoon Network gets spun off and they still gotta license things because of regulatory issues and all that. But there's a deal that not that many people are talking about. I'm surprised, really, because this seems like the ultimate, oh my gosh, like they just save everything. There is a potential joint venture deal between the Saudi Arabia Public Fund and Paramount, because of regulatory issues and all that. That could wind up saving the entirety, like keeping the legacy channels and the linear TV channels with the studios, and kind of keeping everything together. I mean, there would still be some bad things to it, but it seems like the bigger deal, and supposedly it's the runner-up. Like, it's supposed to be like, okay, we're actually really thinking, like, there's a producer, like a director that came out and said, this is literally like a pin sign away, like this deal right here. And if it happens, I'd be so happy. Because like I don't want to see Cartoon Network go away. I don't want to see Cartoon Network die. I don't want to see, my little morning routine just plummet. And I think it'd be honestly the better out of all the deals, in my opinion, if it can go through. And now, well, yesterday the deals were supposed to have been turned in, and supposedly Mr. Zaslav said we won't know anything until like December, probably early December, late December. And it sounds like the split might not be going through after all, and it sounds like we're going to be getting like a complete buyout. I don't know. It's just going to be one big waiting game. I see something happening with Comcast personally, like with the way things are looking. Don't know, but in fact, I feel like regulars have a big issue with like a company like Netflix shutting a lot of things down and just absorbing Max and all that kind of stuff into their ecosystem. And I feel like they'd have a big issue with the company that owns Nickelodeon also owning Cartoon Network. So that, I feel like Paramount and Netflix are good contenders, but I feel like they don't have what it takes to offer up. Not money-wise, but like logistic-wise. So, me personally, I see like something going on with Comcast. But, even though we're talking about, we're literally getting ready to get a buyout here pretty soon, and it sucks that Warner Brothers has never been able to be consistent, like be its own thing. It's always been bought out, but hopefully this next buyout, maybe we'll save it and keep it around forever. That's the dream. Because Warner Brothers is one of those companies. I might be a big Disney fan. Warner Brothers too. I've been a lifelong childhood fan of. It started right with DC and right with Cartoon Network. You just hate to see it go away. I'm going to go ahead and read this news they put out to their shareholders, because this isn't going out to people listening to it. Or like wanting to do this is going after their shareholders. So this is the Warner Brothers Discovery website. This is their big news when they announced the split. Okay, enhanced strategic focus and flexibility will better position story brands across entertainment, sports, and news to drive share. Back to that picture, back to that whole. You can literally pull up the I was gonna say planogram, the diagram of the two companies, and this line right here, my favorite line. Will better position story brands across entertainment, sports, and news to drive shareholder value. It's never not going to be funny. Okay, so we're going to start with news. June 9th, 2025, when the news was made. Warner Brothers Discovery, NASDAQ, blah blah blah. Today announced plans to separate the company in a tax-free transaction into two publicly traded companies, enabling each to maximize its potential. The streaming and studios company, which is Warner Brothers, will consist of Warner Brothers Television, which that's misleading, because we know why. Warner Brothers Motion Picture Group, DC Studios, HBO, and HBO Max, as well as their legacy film and television libraries. Global Networks, which is the internal, all these names are like internal business BS, will include premier entertainment, sports, and news television brands around the world, including CNN, TNT Sports, and the US, yada yada. And Discovery, top free-to-air channels across Europe, and digital products such as profitable Discovery Plus streaming services and Bleacher and all that stuff. To the legacy channels, including Cartoon Network Studios, even though they didn't mention that. We all know what that means. David Zaslav, President and CEO of Warner Brothers Discovery, will serve as President and CEO of Streaming Studios. So he's going to be the CEO of this Warner. If this split goes through, this man, the man that drove this company where it's at, is literally going to be the CEO of the animations and studio side of the company. Anyway, it's going to be, this split would literally be meaningless and then pointless and a big headache for no reason. The CEOs who always have bad ideas always find a way to stick around. It sucks. Anyways, so here's one of their quotes. The cultural significance of this great company and the impactful stories that it brought to life for more than a century have touched countless people all over the world. That is true. It is a treasured legacy we will proudly continue in this next chapter of our celebrated history, said Zaslav. By operating as two distinct and optimized companies in the future, as offloading our debt onto another company will make us more money. Not what they said, but that's literally what they're meaning here. Where did I leave off? By operating as two distinct and optimized companies in the future, we are empowering these iconic brands. Okay, whatever this guy said. I'll even read it. Okay, let's get into more like meat and potatoes, like to better explain what's going on. Streaming and studios, Warner Brothers. With best-in-class creative capabilities and an unmatched library and beloved IP, streaming and studios will be one of the world's greatest storytelling companies. The company will be comprised of Warner Brothers Television, Warner Bros. Motion Picture Group, DC Studios, HBO, and HBO Max, including its international sports offering. Warner Bros. Games, tours, retail and experiences, as well as studio production facilities in Burbank and Lewiston, so William Street and all that good stuff. Streaming and studios will have dynamic and sustainable revenue, profit, and free cash flow for growth because you're offloading that $40 billion in debt. The company will focus on continuing to scale HBO Max, which is now in 77 markets, and new launches planned for 2026, and build on its global momentum, investing in HBO's world, yada yada. Okay, so we know what streaming and studios is going to be. Global networks. Global networks will encompass a powerful and preeminent global portfolio with entertainment, sports, and news television networks and brands, as well as their digital projects. Today, these assets reach 1.1 billion unique viewers in 68 languages across 200 countries and territories, while operating with industry-leading margins and robust free cash flow. That's not true. As a worldwide leader in live television, global networks will have the expertise, reach, and ongoing financial profile to pursue opportunities such as investing in internal growth opportunities, elevating its live content offerings in sports and news, and growing digital extension on a strong network brands such as Discovery, Bleacher Report, and Okay, we all know Cartoon Network's also part of that too. They're just not mentioning that part. They're just keeping that secret because if that part surfaced, oh my god, the world would burn. Transaction details, capital structuring, the shareholders' favorite time of year. Their Christmas presents. Warner Brothers Discovery intends to separate the businesses in a tax-free manner. Tax-free. For U.S. federal and tax purposes. The companies plan to implement arm's-length transition services and commercial agreements post-separation to facilitate the transition and maintain continued operational efficiencies. A whole bunch of business talk. Each company will have well-capitalized structures to support their businesses in a separate press release today. So they've already begun that separate company discussion thing already. Warner Brothers Discovery announced the commencement of tender offers and related consent solicitations across its existing capital structures to enhance its debt portfolio, which will be funded by a committed bridge facility of $17.5 billion provided by J.P. Morgan. The bridge facility is expected to be refinanced prior to separation, so that's where that $40 billion is getting ready to be split into the global division. Let's see where I left off here. The bridge facility is expected to be refinanced, yada yada yada. Both companies will have a clear path to de-leveraging with significant cash flow. Right. And strong liquidity through cash and revolverability. So revolving debts. That $40 billion. In addition, global networks will hold up to a 20% retained stake in streaming and studios. So people who I would assume have a stake in global networks could also have 20% in streaming and studios. The separation is expected to be completed by mid-2026, subject to closing and other conditions, including final approval by the Warner Brothers Discovery Board of Crooks, receipt of tax opinions, and/or a private letter ruling from the Internal Revenue Service with respect to the tax-free nature of the transaction for U.S. federal income tax purposes and market conditions. J.P. Morgan and Evercore are serving as financial advisors to Warner Brothers Discovery, and Kirkland and Ellis LLP is serving as a legal counsel. Okay, so a lot of business talk there, but to simplify it all, if that deal goes through and we don't see a buyout at the end of the year or whatever. Mid-2026, a lot of shareholders and a lot of crooks are going to be happy. Webcast. The company will conduct a conference today for all their shareholders and all their besties at 8:30 a.m. ET to discuss the content of this release. Yada yada yada. You know what? Going more in detail. I don't even want to read that because I hate seeing a room full of money-hungry people. Forward-looking statements. So this is what they see the future being. The world they live in, which is not even reality. We all know this though. Forward-looking statements. Information set forth in this communication constitute forward-looking statements within the meaning of the safe harbor provision to the private security law, yada yada yada. But let me take, I want to read all this. Okay, well maybe this is not their vision for what they think this could turn out to be. It's just literally them explaining, oh well, even though we say we think it's going to happen, or we know, they're literally being like, okay, well, things could be disastrous also if this split happens. So just so you know, wink. it is bad. And, we have, honestly we have three pick your poison options here. Somebody either goes in on its own way and splits, and the cable network eventually dies from that $40 billion debt offload. And before I even get at this, we all know why Warner Brothers wanted Discovery to buy them so they could offload that debt. We all see this coming. It's a joke. And the second poison is it's not the big poison, but it's like it could has the potential to damage Warner Brothers a little bit, or a good bit, but not long term. Comcast buys them. Layoffs happen at the end of the day. A lot of layoffs will be happening no matter what deal happens. Linear cable TV gets span off still, but I think a lot of that debt would be 8. I'm not sure how that would work out. These next two scenarios, it's a whole toss in the air. It's just depending on what Comcast would want to do with Warner Brothers and all this stuff. And the third poison, being the best poison but still a poison, would be the joint venture buyout of the Saudia Public Fund and Comcast, which would, in my opinion, keep everything together. I mean, there would still be layoffs and potential risks for other things later on, but we're in a big problem. Warner Brothers is a big problem. And at the end of the day, I just don't want to see Cartoon Network. I don't want to see it go away, because, Cartoon Network has been a big tradition and what it's known for. It's iconic signature originals. And my goal or my wish is I just hope it all works out, and things look better for Warner Brothers, because that's what they really need. But you never know. Companies all get bought out all the time, and they all sell things. And it's bad. It's bad. But on to nostalgic stuff and reviving the dead and all that good stuff. Vine has came back from the dead, and in the most ironic way possible. The man, the legend, Jack Dorsey, has funded Vine in a way that's actually very unique, actually, to a guy that's getting it back to be more AI not focused, but still, come up to the credit of all those things. Oh my god, no AI. It will still be using AI to, separate out the AI content, but, Vine is back, and I'm happy. I literally already have it on my phone. I joined the waitlist as soon as it launched, and I'm so happy. Because it feels like life is healing. It feels like 2015 and 16 are back. Can't be more happier now than ever. And the way that it's structured means that it's not going to go away anymore. Like, it's built off of decentralization, and it's built off of there's no bigger corporation ever seeing it. I mean, you look at Valve. Valve is a very central company, or not central, but balanced company. They're very like there's no managers type thing, and there's no oversight. Essentially, I mean, there's people there to keep the company on track, but they're not like oversight. They're not overhead. They're not the overlords like hammering down on their talent. I think a lot of companies are starting to see that. And that's also one of the big foundations, back to that whole Sagomatic talk. When I launched Sagomatic, I want it to be decentralized, because now Buy is back, and potentially it's going to be back forever. Steam. Steam has been around forever. Potentially, I don't see it dying anytime soon. And it's because of this decentralized focus. And I really, really enjoy that. I really, really, really love that idea. And now that Vine is back, and they have the archives, it's not called Vine anymore, of course. It's called D-Vine, like D-I Vine. It feels good. It feels good to have that nostalgia back. It's like the world's healing, and it's leading to one of the visions I've seen for the internet for many years, and that's the free internet. You don't have one single platform ruling it all anymore. You have options. You have YouTube. You have Twitch. You have TikTok. You have now you have Vine. Vine. You have like other video platformers like what's the Thriller. You have options, and then like we are trying to bring Byte back. You have like another guy who is literally named Jack, created a service called Orbit. You have choices, and that is so beautiful because it's the free internet. That's what the internet should be. So beautiful. I've literally even thought about making T-shirts that say the free internet. But mine's back, and I can't be more happier. Literally can't be more happier. I guess that's really all there is to say. It's not that big of a deal. It's not that much tea to really talk about, compared to like Warner Brothers and Discovery. It's just good to have Vine back. I guess that's all there really is to say about that. But man, do we... And this is where I'm just going to do this short because Alex isn't here. I made the promise I'd do like a little sports corner in his honor. Man, the world of sports is back, man. We've had a lot of good games. Browns suck. Their quarterback situation has been pretty. A lot of quarterback situations have been like that though too. Dolphins doing very weird for some reason, but they're now starting to win. I really don't hope they fire their head coach though, because he's a good guy. He's a fellow nerd. He deserves that job. It's just he needs to get his head right. He needs to get back in the focus. Panthers 6-5. I love it. Ravens had that little, they brought back Tyler Huntley, and I think that's a good decision because I think having him as a solid backup should be their plan. Back to winning. They were losing, now they're back to winning. Lot of good games. a lot of good games. That's all I got to say. A lot of good games. That's pretty much it. A lot of good games. A lot of weird things happening. That's the big theme of this NFL season this year's. A lot of weird things. A lot of interesting things unfolding in front of our very eyes, and it's just hard to explain. It's just hard to explain. So that's your sports corner, and that's it, really. There's nothing to really talk about, like the whole line thing and all that. What else was there? I don't really think I made subtopics for this video, actually, because the big topics were just so major. Wow. Oh crap. You can tell this is my first episode back in a while. I did not. Oh crap! I did not make subtopics. I don't know. Just go to X and like pull something out of my ass real quick. I got it off on something. By the way, a lot of you guys who tuned in for the live stream and hanging out and all that. Even if you didn't leave a chat for us, or if you just hung out and listened, appreciate you guys. Merch shop's going to be launching Saturday, so I'm going to drop my social link. If you guys want to purchase any Vibe Space merch, or you want to purchase any Shadowminer merch, it's going to be dropping tomorrow, so make sure you are ready for that. It's going to be dropping tomorrow at 12 a.m. PST. Today's Friday, right? No, today's Thursday. No. Oh, you can see my mouse for a little bit. Yeah, drop it tomorrow. That's the final word. Right? Right. Yeah, it's Friday. 4 o'clock in the morning. On a Friday morning. So yeah. You're gonna have merch dropping. Check it out. Try to make it reasonably priced. What else? News and whatever's going on right now. What should be like some kind of like stupid thing? Oh, Panthers. Oh, I guess. This is some interesting news. There's been so much news it's been happening since these VCBs, and I didn't want to make it overwhelming. Hytale got purchased from Riot Games, and now is owned by the original founders. I haven't really looked too much into that, but I think that means not Hytale. Well, yeah, Hytale. I think that means I think is it? Let me see. Oh, I think people that own Hypixel own Hytale again. I have to look more into that. I'll probably do a follow-up on episode 7 or the next podcast or whatever. But it looks like the original. Well, I know it's the original founders. I'm not following the whole Hypixel thing. Keep over Minecraft servers is a pain. It's like Mineplex. They've been teasing relaunching that server for years. I don't know. Seemed interesting to me. Riot Games no longer owns Hypixel Studios anymore, so it seems, I don't know, might be a good thing. All this Hytale's coming back. So, I guess that's going to wrap up this episode. Again, now they're back on the grind. Next episode is going to be next Thursday as usual. This episode is going to be airing today. Usually try to get it out around 3 or 4. So it's going to be airing today at 4 p.m. on YouTube and Spotify. So make sure, if you missed the stream and didn't get to hang out live on stream and all that, make sure you check it out on YouTube and Spotify. As always, we stream Thursday and we go live next day. Well, not live, but you know what I mean. We got our merch. We got my merch store dropping tomorrow. So again, social links is in chat, or if you're just watching this on YouTube or Spotify, if you want to listen to this on Spotify, literally just look up Jacobshadowminer. You'll find a link somewhere to get to my merch store. But if you're watching this on YouTube, link's going to be in the description below. Black Friday's coming up. I'm going to see what kind of deals you're going to let me do on. Right now, I hope the prices are already fair, because I literally went as low as Fourth Wall has let me. But if Black Friday happens, I could probably even go even lower. So it's a good thing I'm launching around Saturday, the day after Black Friday, Cyber Monday, or no, it'll be launched before Cyber Monday, so I might even be able to do some deals on Monday. But you know, you want to buy up some Vibespace merch, rock that underground music channel thing I got going on, or you want to buy some Shadowminer merch, a new tier I'm getting ready to launch on my Discord called Gym Members, you know, my subscribers here on Twitch, or you know, just my subscribers on YouTube in general, paid or not paid, whatever. You can get like gym member merch. Eventually I'm going to do like a whole stream like going through what I'm offering on my merch store, and maybe like a video, of course, like a post. So it's gonna be launching tomorrow, and if you want to check out the Yule log for Vibespace, the plan is, you know, like in normal Vibespace fashion, under the normal underground music vibe. I'm going to be doing a well, the Yule log's out there on YouTube. So if you click on social link, it should take you to Vibespace, and you should be able to find the or you just look up Vibespace on YouTube. Either one, or I'll put a description below. Whatever is easier. Has the Yule log up, so you literally just play that video on loop. Or if you just want to listen to the individual tracks I recorded, they're all covers of like classic Christmas songs. There's only 11 of those, and that's an album I'm not going to be putting on any major music platform. Because I had a vision for this release. I didn't want it to just be music platforms. So, but there's only 11 of them. There's actually way more music in the Yule log video, because it's actually music from other people, music from my other albums. So you want to check out the Yule log. If you're on YouTube, if you're just watching this on Spotify, or not Spotify, watching this on YouTube. But every weekend I'm going to be actually streaming that VOD. One of my things is I've always never been able to find a good 24/7 stream service. I don't want to run 24/7 streams on my hardware. I don't want to kill my hardware because of like streaming. So what I do now is I do like special themed streams, special weekend streams. So you want to catch the Yule log live, it's going to be live on the weekends on the Vibespace channel. Now let's get into the big thing. The big thing I've been teasing throughout this whole stream, this whole episode. Sadly, you guys won't be able to see this on the YouTube video, because I'll be clipping this up for the podcast, and sadly you guys can't hear it. But you guys can kind of hear some of the music I'm going to be playing for this. But for a lot of you guys who hung out, a lot of you amazing guys who hung out to the end of the stream, I have not only a Vibespace Yule log that I went out and got the B-roll footage for, and all that stuff. I have a Shadowminer Yule log. It's going to be playing the same music as the Vibespace Yule log, but it's Shadowminer themed. That right there, that was probably what made the whole production process, this whole this project alone probably a lot crazier and a lot more bigger than the Haunted Autumns project. But you know what? Like I said, that's why this is probably the last, well, not probably, but literally is the last major project on here. The next year, you know, the outlook is going to be production for 2 big film projects, one of them being, you know, like I said, the film adaptation of my book, A Crazy Life. And then, you know, potential plans for convention vending for Sagmatic stuff and Shadowminer stuff. And, you know, a lot to sit down and work on towards the end of the year, on top of business things I gotta do at the end of the year. So, it's been fun. It's been real. It's been a great year. Appreciate you guys tuning back into a classic VCV. I hope to have a lot to give you guys next year, and I can't wait to share with you guys toward the end of this year, like the wrap up stuff, but also do my big wrap up video and talk to you guys what I plan on doing next year and to plan ahead. I can't wait. Just already knowing what I'm doing next year and how everything, all these plans have been, most of them are already planned out. It's just having them fall into place. Can't wait. Can't wait for you guys to see it. You guys want to see it? You guys want to keep up? Drop the socials again, so that way you can check out what I'm working on, catch up on the news, all the good stuff and all that, and you want to keep up with my projects. One of my biggest secrets I can drop is my Discord. One of my big secrets I can drop is a lot of my people on Discord, because a lot of my best friends are there. A lot of my gym members are there too. A lot of those people see a lot of the big announcements and actually get inside information on Discord first. So you want to see what I'm working on? Join the Discord. Again, stick around for the merch reveal tomorrow. I have like a video thing planned for it and everything. Stream maybe. Check out the Vibez channel. This weekend we're going to be doing a Yule log. And again, for a big appreciation for a lot of you guys sticking around for this stream, we're going to be doing a Shadowminer Yule log. This is something that, whenever I do go live, this is going to be something I'm going to be doing every one of my streams. A lot of work into it. There's a lot of hard work. I'm glad. I've got a lot of messages, a lot of love and appreciation for the Vibez Yule log, and I thank you guys for just enjoying this Shadowminer Yule log as much. And it makes me happy. That's one of my big themes is I will be saying in my end of year wrap up video on my YouTube. Might have been a lot of work, but just to see you guys appreciate it and it makes you guys happy, it was worth it. Anyways, guys, it's been fun. It's been real. And as always, I shall see you guys in the next one. Never forget, keep shining. Bye, guys.